Now you should see, he's bigger than any of you guys sitting around here. And he's out there dancing on the floor with mostly women, actually, coming to his exercise classes. And he was happy as a lark. He reimagined his life. Here's how it works. So that's what I want to tell you. I think there's about a 5-step process. There's a lot of advertising on the site. Ignore all the advertising. Unless it's BMO, yeah. And I suspect there probably is BMO on there too. But one of the suggestions, and this is the thing that made all the difference for me, is to get yourself a board of directors. A board of directors of about 5 different people. And the 5 different people each have different roles as their director. One is a person that will support you come hell or high water, okay? Whatever, like mom, you can do no wrong. Then the other person, another person is somebody like dad, who will just give you nothing but hell and tell you got to do this and you got to do that, and be maybe a little bit more honest. Anyway, not just one helper. And this is a little different than that support group, too, that I talked about. It's people that know you very well and that are concerned for your well-being. Okay. Then, that's it. Okay. So there are 4 different suggestions, and all of which, if you go to aarp.org, you can find all of those. You asked me to have a list of all those things. I'm sorry, I didn't. I thought we had that. And I'm looking through my bag this morning, didn't have all those websites. But number 1, workreimagined.org, lifereimagined.org, support group, where you just meet once a week. And if you do join a support group like that, be there every time. Come hell or high water. Make that the most important meeting of your week. And then, what was the 4th one? Board of directors. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Before we open it up to the audience for questions, I had one question that I'd like to throw out to the panelists, and that was, what advice would you give to someone who had gaps in their resume and their employment history, or didn't have a lot of experience in the field, that maybe career transition, midlife, and they don't have a lot of experience in that exact field? What kind of advice would you give them?
I never require direct experience with working in a theater. I mean, it's an extra bonus if you do it, but really it is customer service, and I feel like everyone has had an experience with customer service, be it you're on the receiving end of bad customer service, or most jobs that you may have held in the past would have some level of customer service. So just using experiences that you have to show how you could provide great customer service for us, I think, is what would be important.
Like I mentioned before, you can, when it comes to caregiving, talk about how you've helped your family or friends that were in need. I know a lot of people have volunteered to help their neighbors, even currently or in your life. So you can use those experiences too, because caregiving comes in all different forms. So if it wasn't actually professional experience, if you're applying for senior helpers, you could talk about those volunteer or just random acts of kindness that you used to do for your neighbors or family or friends.
Thanks. I think when it comes to the gaps is what's been keeping you busy. If there has been something you've been doing to keep sharp and keep developing yourself during those gaps, be sure to highlight that. And I also think, look at what you've done. Everybody makes decisions. Everybody deals with conflict. Everybody works through and it delivers customer service. Maybe it's not called that, but if somebody is expecting something from you, you're delivering customer service. So how do you do that? And when you're looking at the application that you're going for, how have the skills actually applied? And don't think exact same duties. And I think that's probably the one thing that we coach is to say, don't think duties and tasks, think experience and role.
Amen.
All right, we're gonna open up to the audience. I see a question in the back there. Yeah.
Robert now.
Sure, sure.
As a digital senior citizen, and now moving as to an older workforce, when I say digital senior citizen, I was a very early .NET, professional, and now that I try to reenter some of those same roles that are exactly the role I did in the past, I hear a lot of times, oh, your experience is a little bit too old. For example, I was in internet banking with Wells Fargo, and I applied in internet banking here, and I wasn't able to go that route, so I had to find new entries by doing anti-money laundering or doing becoming a Scrum Master or a Six Sigma Lean Green Belt, and I happen to be back in the work search again, and I'm still finding that I'm being told that I'm a digital senior citizen, but not old enough to be in a title program where an older person am.
So, the one thing that is changing too is the interview process. So, just some individual is possibly create some type of a presentation or podcast to show that in fact you are up to date. So you use today's technologies.
I do,
Yeah.
I volunteer, and I
Yeah.
actually teach back to the community to keep my network vibrant. I actively participate in several technology forums, and I share both ends of the
Yeah.
extreme senior and the junior, trying to make a place for myself.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing lots of right things. So I just say keep it up. I will tell you, and I think Dan touched on it a little bit. When I was changing roles, and I actually kept track, I received 217 turndowns out of 3 that I actually pursued, and 1. So if you think about that, 220. So when you say you were frustrated, I kept thinking, oh God, am I doing the right thing? So it really is that kind of that intestinal fortitude that's going to keep you going. So keep going. You can do it.
Question in the background, yeah.
I know when re-entering the workforce or changing careers, as they say, something that might seem discouraging is when you anticipate there being age discrimination in the process. Do you have any advice to people who might be feeling nervous or discouraged because of that?
So this was 10 years ago when I was changing industries, and I was going from, traditional retail, and so I actually had to make a decision whether to be my authentic self, being a lesbian, and say, what am I going to do? So, and I can only speak from my own experience. I really tried to approach it as, if it doesn't work out, then it wasn't the right place for me to sit and work anyway. So I've interviewed people in the process where because I'm part of the gay community, I can tell they're playing the pronoun game, and I just want to reach across the table and give them a hug and say, please stop. Because I'm quite blessed that I work for an organization where you don't have to do that. But at the same time, if you can't be your authentic self throughout the interview process, then you won't be able to be that at the employment process either. So it is kind of a looking in the mirror and making a decision of what you want to do.
Did I answer the question? Good, good.
And I would just add that if you have if you feel before you even walk in the room that it's going to go badly and that they're going to discriminate against you, the interview won't go well because you're walking in with that sort of negative mindset. So to the best of your ability to stay upbeat, to stay positive, to walk in, excited, hopefully you're going to get that job. Maybe that discrimination will surface, but just to really present yourself in the most positive, outgoing, and enthusiastic way possible, despite that fact that might be happening. Good, good. We'll start with Greg, and then we'll go here with the question.
Okay, I'll stand up, I guess. My name is Greg Morrow. I used to work here in the Sept program. A little over 3 years ago, I walked into the center here, and I had gone homeless. I was in despair. I went to the front desk and I said, I need help with jobs. I need help with everything. Can you help me? Well, sit down and have a seat. Well, this lovely woman named Britta Larson came down the stairs, and she said, we have a job skills program starting tomorrow. So I was very lucky. It says SageWorks. Please take it if you can. It saved my life because I learned new skills. I eventually got a SageWorks, a CSEP job here. I was here for almost 2 years. I networked like hell. I went out. I was also homeless. I lived in a nice place, transitional housing, but every day was like getting up and going to war, and I had to win this war. And I guess I did. Now I am an employment case manager at Streetwise. I help people get jobs. That's how I pay it forward. I love my work, and I pushed the reset button on my life at the age of 59. I will soon be 63. I get people interested in them, they want me to come work for them. I have an interview next week. Hey Greg, there's this position open. I thought it would never happen. Last summer, I'm like, God, is this all happening? How can I, am I ever going to get a job? I got 3 job offers in one day for 3 professional jobs. I was able to choose a job I wanted, which was the job at Streetwise, to be an employment case manager. It's tough work. I love it. It's interesting. I will say here, Dan said something about volunteering. Please volunteer. I started volunteering for the GED courses here, and I also got ESL certification to teach English at Howard Area Community Center for Immigrants and Refugees. Through that, I went out and started to meet different people in different agencies. I made myself useful. I was always doing something. I was volunteering. I was in that computer center over here. Gail was helping me learn new software. It's stuff you have to do, but once you get the ball rolling, get up and get moving every day. You have to get out of your comfort zone. And anyway, I could say more. But,
thank you, Greg. You're an inspiration. Thank you. Okay, so we have a question here, and then we have a question at the end. Yes.
I have a question. When you guys hire older adults, what's your attendance policies? So for example, like an older adult has a lot of chronic, so they have to be out for a long time, probably 2 or 3 weeks. What do you guys do, like for attendance policy for human resource side?
As Marty mentioned, we are pretty flexible. With ushering, we do need to require a certain amount of coverage on every floor to make sure people, if we have to evacuate, are covered, but we have a large enough pool of employees, I feel like, that we can usually traditionally cover. I just require communication with the supervisors to say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going through. You don't have to be completely candid if you're not comfortable with it, but just, let us know I'm having some health issues and I think that I'll be out for X amount of time. And I would say that we are usually very understanding with things like that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing that Nora said. Just being honest. You don't have to tell us your whole life and what's going on, but just being honest, I'm not going to be able to work. The worst thing that we want, and I'm sure you can speak the same, is calling out the day of or right at, because we have to fill those positions, and especially in our business, we are helping someone else, so that means they're not getting that care, or we're going to have to really shuffle around to get someone else over there right away. But we can be accommodating with leaves if they need to take care of their own family or caregiver for their own family. So I think just communication, honesty, but the worst thing we want is just not waiting for the last moment.
Question at the end there.
So first, let me say I hope this never happens to me. But if you go on an interview and you don't get the job, how forthcoming should you be in terms of calling and finding out why you didn't get the job?
Good question.
That's a really great question, and I think you should. I always say 3 strikes. I mean, really try via email, and I'm not saying these each count, but use all modes of communication with them. If they've given you their business card, use it. And if it wasn't that role, ask them to keep you in mind for other roles. And maybe send them now another letter, that person, to say, you know, as we spoke, please keep me in mind, and here's where I think I can really add value to your organization, and highlight those values. And you know what? 3 to 4 months, check back in with them. Hi, just checking in. How you doing? We actually, and people think that that's annoying, or that, no, it's not. It shows ambition, and it shows a willingness to stay connected to people.
All right, Marty, yes, nice and loud. Do you want the microphone?
Greg and I were classmates in the SAGE program, and I can't recommend something like that, including the information that you're going to find on the ARC website. All of the things that we have heard here today, the volunteerism if you are unemployed, that covers the gaps too in your resume. It indicates that you were just not sitting on your butt someplace feeling sorry for yourself, which Lord knows is easy enough to do. The other thing about trying to find, I thought was an excellent question about the issue of illness and having to be off a period of 2 or 3 or 4 more weeks at a time. And you really can't know that going in unless you ask in an interview, and that might be a little iffy. And so the other thing I would do is try and find other people who work for that organization, which is not always easy. And you have to seek those places out. Now, does that keep you from taking a job? I don't think so. I think you get in there in the first place, and then you worry about that issue next. And if it means you have to keep looking for another job, then you do. I'm very fortunate, seasonal employment at Lyric, and I was able to work 1 month all of last spring, from January through May, due to illness, and I was fortunate enough to be invited back for the fall season anyway. So it takes some looking to find spots like that.
I think that's a really good point, and I think you can find that on most websites. So if you look at the culture of the organization, when you look on their websites, it's not their advertising or what they show, but look at their resource groups, their employee resource groups. And if they're willing to invest the time and the money in resource groups, and not that I'm keep plugging BMO, but we have a BMO Without Barriers resource group. So it actually works with our employees to have those types of situations and make sure that they still feel included and respected within the organization.
So one thing we didn't cover was the importance of really networking and working your contacts and getting out there. And I feel like sometimes seniors are hesitant to call up a friend of a friend and be like, hey, are you hiring? Can you put a good word in for me? I send you my resume, can you send it along? Or in the last workshop we talked about calling up somebody and just saying, will you meet me for coffee? You know, I would just love to strategize with you, to have the half hour of your time, help me with my job search, see if they're willing to do that for you. Don't hesitate to ask. The worst they can do is say no, but honestly, when I'm hiring and I have a stack of resumes in front of me, if I recognize the name because they're one of my volunteers, that goes right to the surface. If the resume came to me from someone I know and I trust, the name goes right to the surface. It helps. It really does help tremendously. So unfortunately, we are out of time. This was a great panel. We have another panel happening in this room in a couple of minutes. So thank our panelists. We appreciate it. Thank you all for coming, and good luck with your job.